All right, so we're going to look at graphing quadratics in standard form. So this is a solved example here. So whenever you have a quadratic function that it's in standard form, these are the steps you can use. So you can pause it, slow it down, but we're going to use these steps here. So x equals negative b over 2a. That's going to give us the axis of symmetry. So that's where I'm going to start all the questions here. I'm just going to roll from there. So let's scroll down to the questions. So let's do two at a time. All right. So start with number one. So for this one, it says y equals x squared minus 2x minus 3. So if I'm thinking standard form, a is going to be 1. So that's a number in front of x squared. So a is 1. B is going to be negative 2. And c is going to be negative 3. So this is going to be a, b, and c. A is going to be positive 1. B is going to be negative 2. C is going to be negative 3. So if we need to find negative b over 2a, that's the axis of symmetry. So negative b, so b is negative 2. So negative b is going to flip the sign. It's going to be positive 2. Instead of negative 2, it's positive 2. And then 2a, so a is positive 1. So 2 times a is 2. And I'll just write x equals negative b over 2a. Actually, let's not write that. So here we have 1, x equals 1. So what this tells us is that the axis of symmetry is right here. I'll try to draw that dashed line at 1 when x equals 1. So a dashed line where x equals 1. This is going to split the graph in half. So the next thing I'm going to do is plug in 1 for x. That's going to tell me the y value when x is 1. So I'm going to find f of 1. I'm going to find the value of the function when x equals 1. So what that is to start with x squared, so that's 1, minus 2 times x, so that's minus 2, since we're using 1 for x, and then minus 3. So I have 1 minus 2 minus 3, so that's a negative 1 minus 3 is negative 4. So I have a vertex of 1, negative 4. So my vertex is right here. Next thing I can do pretty easily is plot the y-intercept of negative 3. So I can put the y-intercept here, and then I can also mirror it over the axis of symmetry. So I can also put a point here. So that's 3 points. If I want to get another point, so I'm going to do that just to be thorough. So what I'm going to do is kind of figure out what's f of 3. I could also do f of negative 1, but maybe 3 is easier. So I'm just going to put in 3 for x and figure out what that is. So that's going to give us 3 squared. So that's 9. I'm just going to write right here, 9 minus 2 times x, so minus 2 times 3. That's minus 6. And then minus 3. So 9 minus 6 is 3, and 3 minus 3 is 0. So when x is 3, y is 0. So when x is 3, y is 0. And that's that point right there, 3, 0. X is 3, y is 0. And I can also mirror it. So 1, 2, 1, 2. All right, very nice. So that's that graph right there. Hopefully I can draw through it all right. Draw up, and then draw through it again. All right. Yep, so those points are right. Graph looks all right. Let's do the next one. Let me actually erase all this. Actually, I'll do that. I'll do that later. All right, so let's see this one. So here A is 3, B is 12, C is 9. So we need to find negative B over 2A. So negative B is negative 12. And 2A is 2 times 3, which is 6. So that means negative b over 2a is negative 12 over 6, which is negative 2. So my axis of symmetry is that x equals negative 2. So I'm going to draw a vertical line there. That's going to split the graph in half. Sorry about the barking dog. Next thing I'm going to do is plug in negative 2 for x. So if I plug in negative 2 for x, I'm going to start here. Negative 2 squared. Negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. It's positive. And 4 times 3 is 12. So it's 12 plus 12 times negative 2. So that's minus 24. And then plus 9 at the end. This is going to give me 12 minus 24 is negative 12. So I have negative 12 plus 9, which is negative 3. Is that right? Looks right. All right, so we have a vertex of negative 2, negative 3. So there goes my vertex. Next thing I might want to do is plot the y-intercept at positive 9. That's way up here. And I can also mirror it. So 1, 2, 1, 2. And just to get an idea of where the graph should be in the middle, maybe I'll find f of -1, right? Is that what I want to do? Yeah, let's find f of -1. So I'll plug in -1 for x. So let's do that. So -1 squared is 1, and then 3 times 1 is 3. Oops, terrible 3. All right. And then plus 12 times x. So if x is -1, that's going to be minus 12. And then at the end, we have plus 9. So 3 minus 12 is -9. So we have -9 plus 9, which comes out to 0. So that means when I plug in -1 for x, when x is -1, y is going to be 0. So it's going to be right here, the point -1, 0. X is -1, y is 0. And I can also mirror it. It's a little sloppy there, but that's kind of what the function would look like. And it would go way up that way. I'll even just kind of draw an arrow up through the red dots. And it would continue through the red dots. I just don't want to draw a bad graph. So those look pretty good. So let's clear these up. All right. All right. So let's look at number 3. So here A is -1, B is 6, and C is -4. So if we're finding negative b over 2a, that's going to be -6 over 2 times a, which is -2. These negatives are going to cancel out to give us a positive. So -6 divided by -2 is +3. So I know that the axis of symmetry is where x equals 3, +3. Draw my little line there. Now I'm going to plug in 3 for x. So I'm going to find f of 3. So f of 3. What is the value of the function when x equals 3? So I'm going to square 3, that's 9, but then that's going to be negative. So it's going to be -9 plus 6 times 3, so plus 18, and then minus 4. So that's going to give me -9 plus 18 is 9, and 9 minus 4 is 5. So my vertex, when the input is 3 and the output is 5. So right here. All right. So then maybe I will plot my y-intercepts of -4. So down here at -4, and I can mirror that as well across the axis of symmetry. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And just for good measure, let's find something in the middle. So let's see, this number 3. Let's do f of 2. So let's plug in 2 for x and see what we get for y. So looking here, 2 squared is 4, but we'll make it negative. So it's going to be -4. Do it here. Plus 6 times 2. So we're plugging in 2. So plus 6 times 2, that's plus 12. And then -4. -4. So the 2 minus 4 is giving me -8. So I have -8 plus 12. That's going to give me +4 equals 4. So when x is 2, when the input is 2, the output is 4. So that green point there represents that point. And then I can mirror that over the axis of symmetry. There we go. Zoop, do, 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 through there. Yes. And all the way through here. All right, looks good. Let's do the next one. So this is also in standard form. There's just no x term. So a is -4. B is missing. B is 0. So the numerator is going to be 0. And then C is 8. So it's negative b over 2a. So it's 0 over, it doesn't really matter what it is, but it's -8. Doesn't matter because it's going to come out to 0. So what that means is that the axis of symmetry is here, where x equals 0. So the axis of symmetry is the y-axis for this particular graph. Let's plug in 0. If we plug in 0, this is going to be 0, and 0 plus 8 is 8. So the axis of symmetry is the y-axis, and the vertex is at 0, 8. I'm going to do that. Is at 0, 8. So now how are we going to graph the rest of this? So maybe we'll just kind of plug in more points around this to see how the graph forms. So let's plug in 1. So if we plug in 1, it's going to give us 1 squared is 1 times -4 is -4. So we have -4 plus 8. Well, -4 plus 8 is 4. So that means when the input is 1, the output is 4. So this point is going to be on the graph, 1, 4. And then I can mirror it over the axis of symmetry. This is probably enough, but you could also do plug in 2 as well. 2 squared is 4. 4 times -4 is -16. -16 plus 8 is -8. So when x is 2, y is -8. That's pretty extreme. -8. It's pretty extreme. So right there, and mirror it. All right, so let's kind of connect these points in a quadratic looking graph. That vertex. Oy, something like that. Oy, oy, oy. All right, well, that's, oh gosh, that kind of looks scary. But anyway, so those are roughly right. The points are all correct. All right, let's hit the next ones. All right, for the last two. So for number 5, A is 1/4, B is 1, and C is -6. So we're going to find negative B over 2A. So it's going to be -1 over 2 times a fourth is 2/4. That is 1/2. If we're doing dividing by a fraction, we're just going to multiply by the reciprocal. It's going to give us -2 over 1, which is -2. So it's going to give us -2. So the axis of symmetry is where x equals -2. This will split the graph in half. This is where the graph will be split in half. If I plug in -2 for x, let's see what we get for y. So -2 squared is +4. Multiplied by 1/4, that is 1. So they give us a nice friendly start. We're plugging in -2. So that's 1, it's plus -2, so -2 -6. So 1 minus 2 is -1. -1 minus 6 is -7. So when x is -2, y is -7. This is going to be your vertex. That was all right. Y-intercept is -6. Plot that here. And to be fair, this is really all you need. Balance it out. This is fine. This will be just fine. Just graph it like that. If you want to get fancy, plug in one other thing. Let's see what we got. So let's plug in, I guess, 2. That should be simple enough. Let's plug in 2. So 2 squared is 4 times a fourth is 1 plus 2 now, and then -6. So that's going to give you 3 minus 6, which is -3. So when the input is 2, the output is -3. The limit does not exist. When the input is 2, output is -3. So I can mirror it. How does that mirror? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it will continue actually through those points, a little wider than I thought. All right, that's actually not bad. Let's erase that. Yeah, something like that. All right, last one. Here A is 2, B is -2, C is -5. So negative B is going to be +2 because the sign will flip on that. And then 2A is going to be 2 times 2, which is 4. So the vertex is where x equals 1/2. That can seem a little tricky, but that is right here. Right, halfway between 0 and 1. What's the output? Oh my goodness. So we're gonna have to square fractions. So for students in Algebra 2 mod, you're not gonna have to do this. Let's just do it anyway. So 1/2 squared is 1 over 2 times 1 over 2. That's 1 over 4. 1 over 4 times 2 is 2 over 4, which is a half. That's the first bit. Minus 2 times a half is -1 minus 5. 1 minus a half is -1/2. -1/2 minus 5 is -5.5. So -5.5. So that's going to be -5.5 right there. And let's just at this point get the y-intercept is -5. And you know what? Mirror it, call it a day. Look at that. That's good enough. If you wanted to get one more point, you could. You could plug in maybe 2 for x. That's going to give you 2 squared is 4 times 2 is 8. Minus 2 times 2, so that's -4, and then -5. So 8, and then this is a -9, so it's going to end up at a -1. So it's going to give you input of 2, output of -1 right there. And I can mirror it 1.5, 1.5. That definitely the least fun. Still doable. All right, so I hope that helps.